all of the attention was on, all the double coverage and stuff was on Antonio Brown. So, but that brings up a good question. Was actually an actual football question. What should the Steelers do to replace Antonio Brown? I mean, do they go in the draft? Do they get a free agent? Do they trade? Do they? I just don't think they could just get somebody in the draft, because I don't think they're going to be ready for this year.
So the ideal situation, and we have to look at this in like the broader scope of things. There's a Super Bowl window that's closing very quickly. Whether we want to admit it or not, the quote unquote glory days of the 2010s to 2020 Steelers, those are closing. We're not sure about Josh Dobbs as a starter moving forward. We're not sure about Mason Rudolph as a starter moving forward. So everything's kind of up in the air right now. If you're planning to win now, which is, in my opinion, what Pittsburgh should do, they need to go out in free agency and get a guy who, is a bona fide number one receiver, is a veteran, and can bring that kind of leadership aspect to the locker room that perhaps Antonio didn't bring. And so a guy that kind of comes to mind is Golden Tate, the receiver that was traded from Detroit to Philadelphia last year. Depending on his price tag, I think if the Steelers do move Antonio Brown, he'd be a great get in free agency. He would kind of check all of the boxes I just listed off, and he would take a little bit of pressure off of Juju and give the Steelers not necessarily back on the same page, because there's no replacing a guy like Antonio Brown. But they can at least kind of keep things going from whatever they left off in 2018.
Yeah. I think another name I heard was Conley from, I think, the Chiefs.
Chris Conley would be a guy. Dream scenario: we ship Antonio Brown to the Chiefs and we get Tyreek Hill back. I think that'd be phenomenal.
Okay, we need to do drug testing on this podcast. That's
I was actually turn my Xbox off actually. But no, you could also try to get a receiver in the draft, but the problem is that as years go by, the receiver draft classes just appear to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So if the Steelers do happen to get a first round pick out of Antonio Brown, I do think they should take a receiver. Just depending on where that draft pick is. I don't know if you keep up very much with the NFL draft. DK Metcalf, the receiver out of Ole Miss, is probably a lock to be the first receiver taken. And that guy is an animal, man. I don't know if you've gotten to watch him at all.
I've heard he's a beast. Yeah. I also think it's very funny that Antonio Brown's cousin is a highly thought of wide receiver in this draft. That would be hilarious if the Steelers drafted that
ship
guy.
Him and be like, you know what? Let's keep things in the family tree. Come on,
right? Because that worked out so well. Talk about nepotism.
Oh, especially if he wore number 84 too. That'd be, oh man,
that would be great.
Everybody can keep their jerseys. It's a win-win.
Right. That's right. Oh, there apparently I think John Brown is also another wide receiver possibility for free agent, and it's like, yeah, there you go, just same name. Maybe they'll make him number 84 or something. So.
True. Also, there's a receiver coming out of Ole Miss as well, besides DK Metcalf. His name is AJ Brown, so that's another possibility the Steelers could add. So
okay,
lots of Brown in the future potentially for the Steelers.
There you go. Another thing is, basically Le'Veon Bell has already been replaced. James Conner was awesome, but he got hurt. Do you think they draft another running back or get another halfway decent running back just as insurance, or do you think they're just going to roll with James Conner and Jalen Samuels?
So I honestly think they are going to keep Conner and Samuels, and I think they will stick with that. I do think they will draft a running back, but that won't be until like later in the draft, possibly day 3. Or they might add just a veteran guy in a 1-year deal. It just depends on who's available and what the price is like, because Steelers don't have necessarily a lot of wiggle room when it comes to cap space, at least for right now. There's always the possibility of restructuring and all that good stuff. But no, I think the team really likes what they saw from James Conner last year, and even Jalen Samuels as well. Samuels brings a whole other element to the team that not necessarily what Conner can't do. It's just he's more of a different type of running back who's more slotted to play in a up-tempo modern NFL style, pass catching out of the backfield kind of role. But Conner's injuries don't really bother me at all. He missed 3 games with the ankle injury. The third game was just to kind of make sure, hey, we don't want to risk him for the future. Let's just play it safe on this one. But it's the life of NFL running backs, man. I mean, we could talk about Le'Veon Bell's health history. He tore 2 ligaments. He hasn't played a full 16-game schedule but once in his stint with the Steelers. Somebody has suggested Adrian Peterson to the Steelers, and that's even worse if you're worried about your running back staying healthy, because he can't stay healthy to save his life. But it's a tough predicament because he's such a young guy, and you do worry about his health a little bit just because he did miss a stretch of games last year. But I think he'll be fine. Connor's a guy he's a tough kid. He's been through a lot. I don't think a couple injuries here or there will keep him out for a long time.
Yeah. Who do you think the Steelers will get in the first round of the draft?
So I don't really envision them trading up, just because I do think the prized possession for them is going to be linebacker Devin White out of LSU. Think of Ryan Shazier, but just wearing purple and gold in college. That's basically all of the pro comparisons he's gathering. And after watching a little bit of tape on him, I have to agree. He would definitely fill in that inside linebacker spot that's needed a lot of help ever since Shazier departed. But unfortunately, I think he'll be going in the top 10, and I just don't envision the Steelers trading up. So a couple guys you're going to hear around that number 20 pick is going to be DeAndre Baker. He's a defensive back for the University of Georgia. Tall, lengthy guy. I believe he's 6'2". I might have to double check though. He's a big framed corner who can high point the ball. He has really good ball skills. Definitely something the Steelers need after we saw what Artie Burns failed to do last year. Another prospect you might hear is Mack Wilson, linebacker out of Alabama. The defensive linemen in Alabama get all the love just because, there's these big, atrocious, Aaron Donald type of guys who can just wreck plays. But Mack Wilson's a pretty darn good linebacker in his respects as well. So, pretty much you can peg it to either inside linebacker or corner at this point in this season. But the scouting combine's coming up next week, so we'll probably get a lot more information then.
What do you think of Devin Bush, that linebacker from Michigan?
Yeah, Devin Bush is another solid option. I do think Bush will be taken in the first round, but I think he'll be taken a little bit later than the Steelers. So if they wanted, I think they could trade back, probably just a pick or two and take him. But I wouldn't be upset if Bush ends up as a Steeler, and I don't think Steeler fans should end up as a Steeler as well. He's got a really high motor in him. I like how he plays. They run a pro-style defense over there in Michigan, and I think he's a guy who can come in and he could start from day one.
I'm telling you right now, I don't know how well the Steelers are going to do, but they're definitely making the playoffs.
You think?
Yeah. Another thing I'm interested in seeing is, Ben, we joke that Ben gets all the blame for things, but really the person that gets all of the blame, the consensus is Tomlin. They basically say he created this monster. Yeah. I also think that's unfair. Just real quick, my take is every team has star players, and the star players get the star treatment. They get, preferential treatment because they're stars. I mean, look at Tom Brady. He has his own trainer running around, and even like recruits other players on the team to do his training regimen and stuff. It's not ridiculous to have a player have star treatment. But what Antonio Brown did was he took that preferential treatment and said, oh, I could do this and I could do anything. And I mean, I think just, whatever's going on with him, just how he is, or if he has problems or whatever, he just, or whatever problems he had with Ben, it just got out of control. But if, it's like, well, Tomlin should have put a stop to that and not let him, be late in meetings and not do these things. Like, okay, fine. But there's a reason I think they knew what would happen if they were too hard on him. I think he, whatever, his lashing out, leaving practice early, skipping the last game, that would have happened sooner if they came down hard on him. So, this whatever he did, or however horribly this ended, this just would have happened quicker if they brought the hammer down on him.
So Tomlin's definitely can be his coaching style can definitely be classified as like a player's coach. That being, he's not this Bill Belichick type of coach where, it's meetings on the dot. If you're late, don't even show up. This and that. He's not a dictator. He's not a total totalitarian. He's not this. He doesn't want to come across as a intimidating guy. He wants to be respected, but also, he's a younger guy, so he definitely wants to feel like his players can trust him. That being said, excuse me. That being said, he gives his players a lot of freedom, a lot of leeway, and he'll stick up for his players whenever he needed. Personally, I think that Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell to a certain extent as well just took advantage of him. They took advantage of Tomlin's loose leash. People always criticize Mike Tomlin for not coming down hard on Antonio Brown. When did he not come down hard? Whenever he twerked in the end zone, week 1 against Washington in 2016. He got a stern talking to after that. We didn't see any more twerking. The whole Facebook Live thing. First of all, Tomlin wasn't even in the picture. Tomlin had no idea Antonio Brown was recording that. And then after word got out and after that video leaked, they had a meeting, and guess what? No more Facebook. We fast forward to 2018. We heard the stories develop after the fact, but Antonio Brown is supposed to go get an MRI. He didn't. He doesn't answer Mike Tomlin's phone calls. Tomlin decides to move on, and then Sunday, Antonio Brown shows up, and Mike Tomlin says no. Mike Tomlin says, "You can tell all your teammates why you're not playing today." We're rolling with the people who were with us all throughout practice. Do you know how hard it is? Because the Steelers needed to win that game to have any chance of making the playoffs. Do you know how hard it is, or how hard it would have been for Mike Tomlin to look his team in the eye and let Antonio Brown run wild and loose for that entire week and then have him suit up?
From what I understand, if Tomlin would have made that decision, okay, yeah, go ahead, dress, and you can play. I think I heard some players say there would have been a mutiny. It would have been like World War III if after all the crap that he did all week, that Tomlin would have let him play. So, yeah, it's just, I can't believe we got to this point. I just can't believe it happened. And really, if the Steelers made the playoffs, we would have known none of this. It would have all been brushed under the rug. And
I think if Antonio Brown played Week 17, none of this is happening.
Yeah,
I think the spotlight was kind of forced upon Antonio Brown for not playing in Week 17 because there's really no quote unquote true injury designation for him. So after the game, whenever he's walking around fine, people start to wonder, hey, what's actually going on here? And then, people start talking and information starts to get gathered. And, next thing you know, Antonio's being put in the spotlight and he's portrayed as a bad person. And then I think that's where things kind of kick-started, and here we are now.
So the other question is the quote-unquote culture problem. Is this, they've been described as a circus, and is this whole thing because of a few people? Is this because of James Harrison, Martavis Bryant, Le'Veon Bell, and Antonio Brown? Or is this just the whole organization is messed up? I personally think it was just those 4 guys. And now that they're gone, I think this is like a new start for Tomlin. You know, forget about the only person